All right, you are now tuned into the Rotating Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez, and I'm here with Gabe. Guys, if you're new, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off, I know you love the way I look in the video right now. I look like a paper cardboard cutout. I was telling Gabe that I feel like I look like, you guys remember the movie The Sandlot? When Rodriguez is dreaming of the Big Bambino and Babe Ruth actually walks into his bedroom, it's like this effect. Where he's just like, legends never die, or something. He says something inspirational.
Like you're entering from the great beyond.
Yes, so that's what it feels like. So anyway, so obviously, as you guys can tell, we're working remotely for this show. And we will be back at it, I think, in a week or two, just to get things rolling. But don't forget to download and subscribe, please, especially for you YouTubers out there checking us out for the first time. We appreciate it. We're trying to build this channel, so every subscription helps. And a like, thumbs up, and it just gets you the notification when we drop a new episode. So anyway, that being said, back on track. This episode, the crew talks about getting back on track with life. We cover topics that range from routines, vacations, exercising, work, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Jim Rohn and Plato. Guys, if you're new, thank you for listening. Don't forget to download and subscribe. Drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off. How to get back into work or study mode after a long break. So we're obviously wrapping up the summer months here, and a lot of the talk is got to get back to the grind. I see people social media posts saying, now that summer's over, I got to get back into gear, kick into gear, get my life together. I saw someone wrote the other day. So the thing is, right, and so when we're on these long breaks, your mindset obviously is totally different than when you're hitting it hard, right, and when you're on the grind, and you have your daily routines, regimens that you're doing day in and day out. But now, what's fascinating was an article I was reading about, them studying successful people, and I believe it was financially successful, like they were multi-millionaires, I think 12 plus figures. But anyway, so one of the things that they monitored was their daily habits on or off vacation. So meaning whether it's a regular work week for them, or if they're out of town, 2-week vacation, 1 month vacation, whatever it is, and they're not in their normal routine, that is their money-making routine. However, they notice that they're still in a routine for themselves. So they never stop self-help. It's pretty amazing, right? They still, for the most part, woke up early. They still did some level of praying or meditation. They still exercised. So they never really truly stopped any of those things. So it's pretty impressive when you think about it. I mean, it's definitely something you want to question yourself on when you go on vacation. It's interesting to monitor what you're still doing, right? Like, what are some of the routines or things that you're still doing when you're on vacation? It's funny because it also depends on what your vacation is and what it looks like. Like some people have, as we talked about in previous episodes, staycations. And so you're at home, and so you still have maybe familiar equipment or the neighborhood that you jog around. So you're still kind of within the wheelhouse of what you're used to.
Yeah, because you can't get too far from there. But there is, like, you go to vacation, it's like you vacate from everything. No, you go to the gym every day. It's all of it's over. It's like for at least a couple days or whatever it is. But stuff like that is good to, like, at least keep up to some degree. Like, so go do a jog or something. Because
no, absolutely. I mean, listen, I think both are appropriate. I think if you really wanted to just stop everything, I don't see the true harm in, like a week's worth of just totally stopping and whatever. The problem is though, like if it's a true habit, you're gonna want to wake up and do it. So you don't want to get into that space where you're actually interfering with your body or your mind and soul is actually wanting you to do. So like if it's a natural thing at that point, if it's such a heavy habit, I would recommend just do it.
Yeah.
Even if so, the vacation and the time off or the break doesn't necessarily mean you don't do it at all. Maybe if it's meditation that you do for 20 minutes or you do 50 push-ups, that you meditate for 5 minutes, you do 5 push-ups, right? So it might just be limiting it so that you maintain the hardwired habit, right?
Which is like a lesser version of it, sort of.
Called ritual, that you maintain that, but you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this also just kind of goes back into knowing thyself. If you know you're a person that, it takes 1 or 2 days of you not doing something and you're off the bandwagon, I would highly recommend that you continue to do it through vacation. If you know you're disciplined enough to come back and hit it hard, that's a tough one. I don't think that's for any one person to tell you that's what's right or wrong. I think you have to know yourself. You truly do have to know. All right, and don't kid yourself, right? And this goes back into a previous episode. We were talking about accountability, and it's something that we're going to talk about here later on. But having that accountability partner, that's where these kinds of things come into play.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a mental thing, whereas if like it's a mental exercise. So if you are a person who works out in the morning, like physical workout, like maybe if, like it's a jog, whether it's weight training, cardio, whatever, yoga, what have you. Maybe it's doing it, but mentally. So you're running through the exercise. Maybe you are just laying in bed or sitting upright in your bed, and you're going through the motions through your mind, so that your brain still has that kind of activity going on. If that makes sense. So I guess, Gabe, I mean, the question for you is an extended stay, right? Do you find it hard to get back into, like, so let's just say you're off for a week or two, and we both have, alongside of all the other stuff we do, we still have a 9-to-5 job, right?
Yeah.
And so you get back into the swing of things. I would consider, let's just say Monday, you start back Monday. What does that look like for you? Like typically, without, buttering anything up, is it easy for you to jump right back in? Do you think like the time off allowed you to rest and you're ready to get back at it? Or is it just a mixture of things? You're just kind of like, oh boy, I gotta get back into the...
It is a variation of a bunch of those things, because no matter what, I always leave my alarms on. Like I don't turn them off. Like I don't ever like permanently like, I'm off for a few days and my alarms are turned off. So no matter what, even no matter weekend, or I don't have the weekend ones, but it was like even during the week, if I'm off for a few days there, those are always on. So I have to snooze them or just cut them off, whatever, when they go off, but I always keep them on. So that at least keeps that routine going. Yeah, it's hard to get up and get out of bed sometimes, but other than that, like at least the routine of waking up at a certain point is always still there, no matter what. So that helps a little bit. I mean, yeah, you're dreading, being able to, instead of turn off your alarm and just rolling around the bed for a while, or as opposed to getting up, getting ready, and going to work or driving to work, whatever. Of course, that becomes a little more dreadful, quote unquote. But I mean, other than that, no. I mean, I at least keep the somewhat routine of at least staying up at the same time in the morning and all stuff too. And it's like, even that keeps you kind of going to bed at the same time too, because if you're still getting up relatively early, you're not going to stay up mad late. So that doesn't like totally mess with like your sleep schedule just per se.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, but the other part too is like, if you you have stuff to do and like you're off work for a few days, and it's like, what am I walking back into in terms of actual like the buildup of work? It's like is the other part of it. So
yeah, I know, absolutely. What do you think? work aside, let's talk about maybe fitness or something else that needs a routine thing. What's the hardest part about getting back on track for you?
See, because I am kind of like that type of person that like, oh, you let it go for a couple days, and then it's like, do I really want to keep doing this? Like first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
because it's been a while, but they used to like, I'll get up an hour earlier than I used to like for work, whatever. And I was like, oh, I was to go do cardio, do whatever. And then it's like I did it good for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like you sleep in a couple times, and it's like you do it, and then like it becomes more of like a not roller coaster, whatever. So it's like I would be one of the people that has to keep just kind of like doing something. Otherwise,
Yeah.
like it's gonna be a complete fall off after a while. I was like, oh, then I really have to talk myself into doing something after a while. Because I mean, because you're pushing yourself earlier than you're doing something out of the ordinary for a while, but it's like it. It's hard to keep it up. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's maintaining it. So sometimes we can, psych ourselves up to take on something because you're met with a decision of change. Like you're fed up with yourself for something,
yeah,
right? You're like, you know what? I need a change, and there's a little bit of motivation that's inserted there, right? And so you're kind of going off of this initial rush
yeah,
of that decision, and then after a week or so, you're like, oh my gosh, I mean, was it really that bad before?
sure,
And then so you hit the crossroads of what's going to be more painful, the thought of the future me looking back in disappointment, maybe that I didn't start sooner or I didn't maintain this good habit, or the pain of getting up every morning, right?
yeah,
And so it's you're left with that decision, not to be so hardcore, but that is the core of it, right?
yeah.
um that truly is. But that's beyond, that's just beyond the physical aspect of things too, man. That's a lot. I would say 90% of this is mental.
Yeah, 100%.
90% of this is gathering your thoughts to all agree in unison that we're doing this.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it really is. It's a war between the 6 inches between your ears, and it's just the back and forth, the back and forth. And I heard a very intelligent suggestion from a gentleman I used to bounce ideas from, and he said, "You get up early enough, or when you get up early enough to set yourself up for success, meaning get up early enough for you to actually do the good habit you're wanting to do. So if it's meditation and you want to meditate for 10 minutes, then get up in enough time to give you that 10 minutes. Don't give yourself 5 minutes to meditate and then you're rushing through it and you just
sure.
so. And then he also said, when you wake, so whether it's naturally or through alarm, or something else, when you wake up, just get up and hit it, because the point of that is just doing it fast enough or making that decision fast enough before your mind figures out what the heck you're doing,
What you're trying
and
exactly.
talks you out of what you're trying to accomplish. Because boy, does that happen fast. Or man, especially in the winter, that bed is so warm
Yeah,
and you're so cozy, and it's cold out, right? And again, we live in Pennsylvania, so we get all the elements. And man, I'll tell you what, it's extremely hard. It's hard to do, but yeah, maintaining the good habit is just as hard as starting it, right? Because you can. The cool thing though about once you get started is a wonderful thing called momentum.
yeah,
Because once you have momentum, right, and on top of momentum, maybe tracking your progress. Once you start having that traction, it's almost like you don't want to mess it up, right?
exactly.
Have you ever
Yep.
been there where it's like, oh my gosh, I've been going for, whatever, 45 days straight. I want to make it to 50 at least, right? And it's like there's something about it that you don't want to mess up your track record or the mojo, the momentum that you have.
And even part of that too is like it it cycles into other parts too, because like, oh, you're working out more, like, oh, you don't want to eat terrible that day either, because it kind of messes up what you did early in the day. So it's like you kind of like, it kind of keeps multiple points accountable at that point too.
Yeah, and you know what? You got to go long enough for you to start seeing some kind of result, right?
Exactly.
And that's the other thing. It's like, especially, and I know we're talking about the physical things, just
Yeah.
much more easier to explain.
Yeah.
And
It's easy to quantify.
for the to quantify for the explanation purposes. Once you start seeing results, or let's just say you're trying to lose weight, once you start losing 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds, that creates something, right? That there's like a little fire there that you're like, oh snap, let's keep this going. I like where this is going.
Oh, it's actually happening.
The goal was, 15, 20 pounds, whatever. And so you don't want to mess it up. So the progress is something to take note of, and it's truly what I was talking about before, is having that accountability. Like, if I'm only accountable to myself and I never told anyone, it's probably, depending on the person, there's some people who can do that.
Yeah.
But there's a good majority of people who need to go beyond going beyond holding themselves accountable. It's
Sure.
holding yourself accountable is one thing, but then maybe having, checking in with somebody, or at least shooting someone a text like, hey, I lost another pound this week. Absolutely. Whatever, even if it's something that basic, because then they're going to ask you, the following week, how are things going? Exactly. It's not necessarily having a coach screaming on the side of your head as you just wake up. Yeah. I'm not talking about that. And if that's what you need, fantastic, go for it. But what I'm saying is, you got to, again, know thyself. You got to know yourself. What will get you going? You know, right? Because you're the same person that's going to give yourself the excuse to not go. It's a little I feel a little under the weather. And I got to be honest with you, man. When I was really in it with working out and things like that, there was no excuse I would accept for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to be extremely sick for me to not do any physical activity. Now, I wouldn't go to the gym to, spread anything, sure, but I would definitely still be like in my room doing push-ups or sit-ups. I would do something. And so to totally stop, it's something else, man. Because I'm telling you, once you have that momentum, there's something about it. You don't want to stop.
And to your point, like when you start vocalizing, and then like, other people will start inadvertently keeping you accountable. So
I think the hardest part when it comes to like staying in your regimen is vacations, because vacations provides a very artificial reality to what your day-to-day looks like, right?
Sure.
Especially if you're going to somewhere that's, out of town or out of state or out of country, an island where you don't live in it, when you live, let's just say, like in an inner city. And so you're presented with this artificial, like, it's reality, but it's not reality, if that makes sense. Like,
it's not the real life. It's not the
on a regular basis, right?
Exactly. It's not the normal life.
So you're removed. You're actually removed from your situation. And so I think that's the hardest part, is because you're so drawn to the beach, or you're so drawn to the mountains or the lake, or whatever the location is that gives you that energy or that almost healing factor, and provides this renewal energy surrounding your aura that is rejuvenating, I guess, to some extent. And that's the whole purpose of it, right? That draw factor, when it's drawing you, so when you're driving home and you still feel that draw factor, that's what I'm talking about. It's almost like you're driving and you're like, you feel not remorseful, but you feel kind of like sad or disappointed, like, oh my gosh, the finality of that, this is over, right? Because it was so much fun.
Yeah,
right?
No, absolutely.
Because typically vacations are injected with fun for the most part, right? And so, but again, it's a false reality.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you earned it, you deserve it, whatever, paid for it, and you want to enjoy it and make the most of it. The fantastic part is it's a great reset, but the hard part about coming off of a vacation is going back to your regular day-to-day reality.
Because you're caught between the, oh, I really enjoyed this, I wish I could do it longer, and getting back to the normal routine, which, like you said, it's fake life because you did it every day. Then it would be your normal life, and doing something else would be the fake life.
Absolutely. All right, so I listed a couple ways for folks to get back on track that hopefully they can find helpful when it comes to routines, coming off a vacation, exercising, getting back to work, all these things. And the first one is actually preparing the mind. So preparing your thought process, preparing how you think, preparing your approach mentally.
Mm.
A lot of times we're just talking about this. Like, actually, I just picked Goose up, my brother Miguel, from the airport. He came from Myrtle Beach, and we got home like around 10 o'clock, right? And I believe he had work the next day. And so that's a lot because you're going to get a little bit of jet lag.
Yeah.
It's already late. I think his plane or his flight was delayed an hour. So there's the added stress.
Sure.
And then landing is one thing, and then getting your luggage, the right luggage is another.
Sure.
And finding the right area that you're supposed to be standing so your ride picks you up in the correct area and you don't get lost or stranded, right? So there's all the stressors that are added post-vacation or post-relaxation, right? And then you get home at 10 o'clock at night to unpack, unwind, maybe take a shower, maybe snack on something. I'm not really sure. Maybe you want to, wind down by watching, a favorite TV show or whatever. But it's like the next morning, you got the grind is there and it's waiting. You know what I'm saying? And so I think preparing the mind in those moments is probably the best thing that you can do. And it should probably happen the whole day of your return, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be hardcore, but it should increase as the day goes on. And so you're kind of thinking like, all right, yes, tomorrow I got this meeting, I got this to conduct, I got X, Y, and Z tasks I got to make sure I get done. And you're just kind of running through it. Not so it takes over your day that you're still off or ruins your day because it's going to add stress. That's not the point. That's the reason why you want to prepare your mind so you're not doing that. And so you're kind of just like fluffing the pillow, so to speak, so that you can rest fully and that you're not having these nightmares or these, tremors, waking up in the middle of the night, in a total panic on what you need to accomplish next day.
Like, oh man, I gotta go back to work and wake up 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, no, for sure. That happens. The other thing is cleaning and organizing your space. Yeah. And so the importance of this is to really, truly, once you get your mind right, we just talked about, and the space right, you're organized and that, you're setting yourself up for success, right? So the exterior world is a reflection of your interior. And so if you see clutter, a mess, disorganization, that's how you're going to feel. You're going to internalize that. And in turn, that's how you're going to act. You're going to be disorganized. You're going to be disoriented. You're going to be a hot mess. And so a clean area and an organized area is probably best practice, I would consider.
And I guess that's where, the suggestion last time of especially the vacation part of it was that trying to have that extra day if you're able to, because that gives you all this time to actually really prepare and really, like I said, and really get, like I said, unpack whatever you did before and then really organize your space for, that you have to get back in your normal routine at that point, that you really meant to prepare and get everything organized and stuff to get back in the swing of things properly.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one is planning your day, your week, or your month. So you prepared your mind, you set the tone in your area, it's organized and clean, and now you're planning that week so that you shouldn't go into it with a billion unknowns, right? Like I don't want to go in not knowing what my schedule is like. My calendar is so booked that I have to prepare days in advance so that I'm ready for those meetings, so I'm productive in these meetings, so I'm efficient and effective in these meetings. And so planning the day out, I'm saying day because maybe you just want to take it one day at a time, and just, you know, absorb the hit, so to speak, that way. Some people want to plan out the whole week. Basically, my whole month is already planned out for the most part for pillar meetings and pillar tasks that I have to complete no matter what. And then it's broken down to the weekly ones that are kind of set in the calendar. And then you have your daily tasks and things that kind of can adjust as you go along in your day. You know, maybe a last minute meeting gets booked, or a conversation in a hallway can lead to a follow-up meeting, you know, those kinds of things. But actually organizing and planning your day, your week, and your month is going to help you come back from this break and allow you to be back on track in an effective and efficient way. The other thing is being rested. So I would hope that there's an entertainment value of vacation, of course, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. There's the there's the relaxation part of a vacation. Sometimes vacation is not any of that. Sometimes it can be, you know, very stressful depending on the situation. But
or you want to take the most advantage of it by like jam packing everything, you know, all kinds of events and activities and stuff in there, especially if it's like family and stuff. So you want to like get the most out of it.
Yes. But anyway, in saying that, try your best to actually relax and get some release of those tensions, let's just say, while you're on vacation. And so that when you come back rested.
Yeah.
You come back ready to go. And that goes beyond just physical. I'm also speaking mental and emotional. Get back well rested. As we talked about previously, another good tip is to start early, right? Or at least on time. You don't want to start your week off late, rushing, you know, scatterbrained, disheveled, walking into work, you know, or your job, or whatever you're doing, just all discombobulated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not a good way to start, because let's be honest, it's well known, it's well studied. The way you start your day or week or whatever is an indicator how it could go, a very strong one. Now, we have the ability to change that, of course. So if I stub my toe in the morning, I don't allow it to ruin my morning or take over my thoughts in a negative way.
Sure.
We're in control. But to avoid that or set yourself up, come in well rested, right? Come in on time, and come in, or even better, come in early. So the approach is already starting in a positive way. Carve out some alone time. And I think that just means on some reflective basis. So sometimes in the planning section of all of this, we think we have it all figured out, but then life happens, right? And so something may pop up unexpectedly. So you want to give your alone time, maybe to restructure your day, or maybe restructure your thought process, or maybe you didn't start on the right foot, maybe you did start late, and maybe you are disheveled and discombobulated, right? And you want to pause, give yourself a break, take a couple deep breaths, and reevaluate how you're going to finish the day. Because as they say, it doesn't matter how you started, it matters how you finish, right? And that goes back to what I was saying before. Maybe you did start off kind of on, you know, a quarter inch off, but you want to get back on track. To do that, maybe it's reanalyzing the situation, and it's giving yourself a break, taking time for yourself, and reevaluating what's going on. Another thing is starting small. And I'm going to combine this with prioritizing your time and your tasks. And then I'm adding on starting small. So when you're scheduling out your week to the best of your capacity, make sure it's prioritized in the right way, right? And so if a task doesn't need to be completed, right? Because I was talking about, start small, but if a small task does not need to be completed till the end of the year, it's probably not beneficial. That's where you go. Yes, I'm saying start small, but start small in a very strategic way. So evaluate what needs to be done. Start small. Let's just say what needs to be done now or this week or this day, and then find the smallest task that is easily accomplished with the smallest amount of effort, but will make a difference, and it needs to get done. The reason for this is that it's going to give you confidence, and once you get confidence, you get to tackle another task. And once you string along a couple completed tasks, you're going to get what I mentioned earlier, a little thing called momentum. And once you get that momentum, you're going to want to rock out, and that's how you start to crush it. And then you space out the space in between with who and what you want to do, and reevaluating to make sure my approach is correct. Listen, I could plan all I want, but like I said, God has other plans. He might all my plans might get totally derailed. So it's very important to sit back and reanalyze these things. And again, start small, prioritize tasks, emails, right? Sometimes when we come back from vacations, right, Gabe? Come back from vacations.
400 emails.
Well, you know that there's certain emails that are coming across. They're just really FYIs, right? They're just
sure.
So blah, 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 blah. They're like an awareness email almost. Yeah. And I say that in, I feel like there's meaning and there's use for them. However, you don't have to directly respond to them, right? Maybe it's almost like a news flash, like, hey, this Friday we're having soup in the cafeteria, right? And it's
sure.
You don't need to reply to that, so you don't need to necessarily open it right away, right? And forget the food example. It could be anything. That
well, exactly.
So obviously, it's different for everyone. So because if you're the chef, obviously that's something you're gonna want to know what you're making for that.
Sure.
But so I would say when you're looking at these things, emails is a funny thing because that can become overwhelming. Because sometimes you'll be sitting, in your home, drinking your coffee or whatever your morning routine is, and let me just check out a couple emails, or the email's already flying in, right? One of the mistakes I've done is I've seen an email. I knew it was going to be, an extremely, maybe not extremely, but an important one that was addressed maybe to me. And I read it before I even get into work, right? And before I can get into work, I'm already now coming up with all these scenarios on how this email is going to pan out and how I'm going to respond. And, it might shift my mood, right? And now my energy is not pointing in the direction I want it to, all because I read an email at the wrong time. Email is going to get addressed. It's going to be read first thing in the morning when I arrive at work. Not now mess up my entire morning routine because I have a commute of nearly an hour. And so if I'm starting off wrong in that sense, now all the negative stuff start building up in my head, and all this stuff's made up again in my own mind. Some of it could be true, but it's not the reality just yet. And so you have to be mindful. Again, going back to the original point, know thyself, know how you operate. You have to know that.
If you're gonna be strung out over something you shouldn't read at the moment, then it's time, like you're gonna do it. You're gonna do the same thing anyway. Once you get to work, you're gonna address it. You can't stop there in the middle of the road and start trying to reply to an email.
Yes. Going back to what I was saying earlier, when it was like give yourself some time. Part of that is evaluate what's not working and eliminate those habits. So you want to cut out the fat, right? If you're trying to be effective and efficient, right? You want to evaluate what's not working and cut that out, and then replace it with something that could be working or will work in your favor to accomplish what you're trying to do. The other thing is surround yourself with supportive people. Now, I'm not saying you have to start this whole, motivational group of people, of cheerleaders that are going to cheer your every move. Listen, that's just not the reality. You want supportive people, but you don't want the fake support where they're not helping you in the right direction. I mean, the people are going to be cheering you on, and you could be going the wrong direction. Straight downhill the wrong way. The finish line is over here, and you're going that way, and they're, yay, great job, keep going.
Well, yeah,
want
you
someone
don't,
who's
you don't want people to
going
yes you to death. So.
supportive, but in the right direction.
Sure.
Because there's some negative support out there. Maybe there's some people who probably don't want to see you succeed as bad as you want to succeed, or maybe you think that they want you to succeed. So people's intentions may not be what you think that they are. With that being said, be mindful of that. Protect your dream, right? Protect your thought process. Stay away from the negativity, and surround yourself with some people who are going to be supportive. I think all of these things are all leading to what I had said earlier about an accountability partner. When you're choosing this accountability partner, now it could be your significant other, it could be your spouse, it could be your best friend, it could be a friend at work, coworker, or whatever. But your accountability partner should understand what your goal is and should have that kind of healthy intentions for you. Meaning, you want them to have your best interest, right? And so, going back to what I was previously saying, make sure you don't have a hater, encouraging you. Meanwhile, they're wishing nothing but evil and failure upon you and your soul.
Yeah.
Because there's the soul suckers. They're out there, man, and they're the dream takers. And so, you want to chase the dream with somebody who's going to be supportive, who can help hold you accountable. Again, I'm not talking about drill sergeant level, but if that's what you need, fantastic. And that's what you can, have the ability to absorb and perform, awesome. But these are the things that you want to consider for sure. One of the things is getting back on track, getting your kids or maybe other people back on track to support you, right? And so one of the things that I was thinking about lately was getting back on track, for the school year and helping my son, maybe my kids have that mentality and maybe share with them, some of the errors that I made. I know one of the biggest ones that my mom had with us growing up was our curfew and the time we went to bed at night. During the summer, those hours are kind of loosely kept.
Yeah, exactly.
But once the school year starts, you kind of want to get back into a routine where you're getting that healthy 8+ hours or whatever you need for your body on a regular basis at a similar time, I should say. So if you're going to bed, if my kids are going to bed at 8 o'clock, right, every single night, and then summer hits and they're not going to bed till 10 o'clock every single night, there's a big difference, right? And so to prepare your kids coming off of that summer mentality is 2 weeks before or a week before, have them
get back on that,
get back on that grind. And then also,
have you started doing that or?
Yeah, we have. And then the other thing is like reading and getting, like if you kind of fell off during the summer with reading or studying or math or anything, maybe you didn't have a tutor or didn't have summer school or anything like that, you want to get back into the routine of doing something, an assignment. And likely the easiest one is reading, just because it's books and things like that are easier, articles are more easily accessible. And maybe just jotting down a few things that you learned, nothing, hardcore, but it gets you going.
But I assume that was kind of part of like the summer reading assignment stuff that they used to somewhat give us.
Yeah, because, you go 9 months or so of learning. You're not retaining everything, right?
Yeah.
Just not. And then you go 3 months of vacation. So imagine what's being lost during that time. And so it's more of I believe it's more of a retention strategy than anything else. It's like, even if you can maintain what you learned, you're going to be ahead of the curve, right? Because a lot of people don't do that. And so if you're trying to be top tier, the strategy is to, kind of continue those things. There's programs all over. There's ones that you pay for, ones that are funded, whatever. But just even if it's easy math or easy reading, it's probably not meant to hardcore challenge you. I'm sure it's there to challenge you a little bit, but you need the rest. And so I would suggest having that rest, but I also would suggest not have, something so much that you fell into the slumber of, holy crap, I forgot everything I did the previous year, and you have no momentum or nothing to build on.
You have like mental atrophy.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it. I remember doing absolutely nothing one summer. It was like elementary school or whatever, junior high or something. And coming back, I remember it was just everything felt foreign. And it took me, and obviously I regained all of my momentum back and just, oh my gosh, I had to get back into the swing of things.
Sure.
But I got smacked over the head with it.
Okay.
Totally was way out of routine. I was way out of my, what I did on a regular basis during the school year, that, I felt like I got bopped upside the head when the school started, because it was like, oh my gosh, so much.
Yeah.
And so it's a good way to enter, because it's not going to be so abrupt, I guess. The stop or the demand, the mind energy won't feel as harsh. I guess for the final question, what do you recommend someone not do to get back into the swing of things? And so I think the biggest thing for me, my biggest recommendation, which I played mind games or tricks in my head and came down on myself for it, is I became overwhelmed with what I did not accomplish. Right? Sure. Because I was on break, I stopped accomplishing things. I stopped doing certain things, so certain things were not getting done. And then I came back, overwhelmed myself for what was not done.
Or you you had all these plans for if it was like a summer break or something, like, I'm supposed to do this, and like maybe you got a fraction of it done, but it's like you're upset at yourself for not doing everything you quote unquote set out to do.
Yeah, go back to the recommendations we gave on how to get back into the swing of things, but more importantly, avoid overwhelming yourself,
or I guess like over criticizing on like what
over criticizing yourself. Exactly, perfect. Any final things you'd like to add here, Gabe? I think we covered it all. Yeah,
because I mean it's perfect. Like exactly what you said. Like to not get back in swing is kind of what you said. Like don't just go hardcore like all thing and then like, oh, I have to start school again, whatever it is, or I have to go back to work tomorrow in a few hours. It's like it doesn't make sense. You should ease back in. You should like at least mellow out for at least a little while ahead of time, so you're not bamboozled by the sheer brunt of like I have to go back to a routine immediately.
Love it. All right, we'd like to wrap things up with quotes, and the first one is by Jim Rohn. Learn to be thankful for what you already have while you pursue all that you want. And the second one is by Plato. Good actions give strength to ourselves and inspire good actions in others. Back on track. In this episode, the crew talks about getting back on track with life in general. We cover topics that range from routines, vacations, exercising, work, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Jim Rohn and Plato.
Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.